About. Fill in the blank. Of all traffic fatalities involve alcohol. A. 60%. B. 38%. C. 24%. D. 10%. B. 38%. Drinking and driving is both illegal and dangerous. About 38% of all traffic fatalities involve alcohol. A work zone. A. May be moving or stationary. B. Is marked with black and white signs. C. Does not require a driver to slow down and pay extra attention. D. All of the above. A. May be moving or stationary. Work zones are often stationary, but they may also be present in the form of moving vehicles striping lines, mowing, or removing snow. Work zones are marked by orange signs with black lettering or symbols. Slow down and pay extra attention when approaching or driving through a work zone. This road sign means: A. All traffic must turn right. B. No right turn. C. All traffic must go straight ahead. D. A road joins from the right. The fastest a driver should drive when backing up is: A. 25 miles per hour. B. 20 miles per hour. C. 10 miles per hour. D. 15 miles per hour. C. 10 miles per hour. Back very slowly and not faster than 10 miles per hour. Your vehicle is more difficult to control and stop when it is backing.
Want to ace your DMV test? Click on the link below and get your guaranteed cheat sheet.
This sign means: A. Stop. B. No U-turn. C. Yield. D. Do not enter. D. Do not enter. This sign is placed at the beginning of one-way streets and ramps to indicate that you must not continue driving in your current direction. This sign means: A. No parking. B. Divided highway ahead. C. Left turn signal. D. Yield. A. No parking. Regulation signs regulate traffic speed and movement, displaying rules which drivers must obey. This regulation sign indicates that parking is not permitted. During normal weather and traffic conditions, keep a minimum following distance of: A. 1 second. B. 2 seconds. C. 3 seconds. D. 4 seconds. Which of the following best ensures your safety and the safety of those around you when you are backing your vehicle? A. Honk your horn right before shifting into reverse. B. Check behind the vehicle before you get into the driver's seat. C. Check your rearview mirrors to see what is behind you. D. Turn up the car radio before backing up to get the attention of anyone who may be around you. B. Check behind the vehicle before you get into the driver's seat. Backing requires extra caution because it is difficult for drivers to see behind their vehicles. Before entering a vehicle to back up, walk to the back of the vehicle to check for children and small objects. What does this road sign mean? A. Slow down and prepare to stop if cars are approaching you. B. Come to a full stop and go when it is safe to do so. C. Proceed carefully through the intersection, not always stopping. D. Stop only for traffic on an intersecting road. B. Come to a full stop and go when it is safe to do so. A stop sign means that you must come to a full stop and yield the right of way to vehicles and pedestrians in or heading toward the intersection. Go again when it is safe. This sign means A. Trucks are permitted on an upcoming narrow bridge. B. The bridge ahead is open to one-way traffic only. C. The bridge ahead is wide enough for only one car at a time. D. The bridge ahead may be too narrow to meet or pass a truck. D. The bridge ahead may be too narrow to meet or pass a truck. Warning signs are used to warn drivers about upcoming hazardous conditions and are usually yellow with black markings. This sign warns drivers that an upcoming bridge may be too narrow to meet or pass a truck and that they should be careful. You must yield to other drivers. A. When entering a street from a garage or alley. B. When they are on a road to your left and you have reached an unmarked intersection at the same time. C. When your traffic signal is a green arrow. D. All of the above. A. When entering a street from a garage or alley. You must yield to other drivers when entering a street from an alley, driveway, or garage. You must also yield to pedestrians who are on an intersecting sidewalk. This sign means A. Stop. B. Side road. C. Two-way left turn. D. Farm machinery. A. Stop. 8-sided traffic signs warn drivers that they must stop and yield the appropriate right of way at an intersection. Drivers may proceed when it is safe to do so. If an aggressive driver cuts you off, you should A. Call the police immediately. B. Stay calm and move out of the aggressive driver's way. C. Flash your vehicle's lights to let the aggressive driver know he is wrong. D. Use a driving action of your own to get back at the aggressive driver. B. Stay calm and move out of the aggressive driver's way. If an aggressive driver cuts you off on the roadway, stay calm and get out of their way. Trying to get even with an aggressive driver risks escalating the situation and increasing the danger. A solid white line down the center of a two-lane road indicates A. Lanes are moving in opposite directions and drivers are not permitted to pass. B. Lanes are moving in opposite directions and drivers are permitted to pass when it is safe to do so. C. Lanes are moving in the same direction and drivers are not permitted to pass. D. Lanes are moving in the same direction and drivers are permitted to pass when it is safe to do so. C. Lanes are moving in the same direction and drivers are not permitted to pass. White lines are used to separate traffic moving in the same direction. Solid lines indicate that drivers are not permitted to pass. Crossbuck signs indicate A. Railroad crossings. B. School zones. C. No passing zones. D. Hospitals. A. Railroad crossings. Crossbuck signs tell drivers to yield to trains at a railroad crossing. Drivers should not try to outdrive a train. When parking uphill next to a curb, set the parking brake and A. Keep the rear tires against the curb. B. Keep the front tires straight ahead. C. Turn your steering wheel away from the curb. D. Turn your steering wheel toward the curb. C. Turn your steering wheel away from the curb. When parking facing uphill on a street that has a curb, set your parking brake and turn your steering wheel away from the curb. This way, if your vehicle starts to roll, it will roll into the curb. To help prevent crashes, you should A. Communicate with other road users. B. Ignore other drivers on the road. C. Drive only on side streets and back roads. D. Avoid driving during rush hour. A. Communicate with other road users. Crashes often happen because one driver does something that other road users are not expecting. You should communicate with other motorists, bicyclists, and pedestrians by doing things like signaling when slowing down, stopping, or changing direction. Use your emergency signals or horn when appropriate. Before switching on the ignition, you should A. Be sure only backseat passengers have buckled their seat belts. B. Be sure only adult passengers have buckled their seat belts. C. Be sure only child passengers have buckled their seat belts. D. Be sure all of the vehicle's occupants have buckled their seat belts. D. Be sure all of the vehicle's occupants have buckled their seat belts. Develop a routine for entering and leaving your car. Before switching on the ignition, buckle your safety belt and see that all passengers do likewise. You may pass another vehicle? A. In a curve or on a hill because the chance is small that another vehicle is coming. B. By using the shoulder of the highway. C. If your lane is next to a solid yellow line and the passing lane is clear ahead. D. None of the above. Don't follow other cars too closely because A. You may not see the road between the cars. B. You may not have time to stop if the vehicle in front of you slows or stops suddenly. C. You may not see the vehicle's turn signals. D. You may not see the other vehicle's brake lights. B. You may not have time to stop if the vehicle in front of you slows or stops suddenly. If you follow too closely and the vehicle in front of you slows or stops suddenly, you may not have enough time to avoid a collision. This road sign means A. You are about to enter a one-way street the wrong way. B. School crossing ahead. C. Do not drive in this lane. D. Traffic turning left on the green light must yield to oncoming traffic. D. Traffic turning left on the green light must yield to oncoming traffic. This sign is used with a traffic signal to tell drivers that left-turning traffic does not have the right of way and must instead wait for oncoming traffic to clear. Two solid white lines painted across a traffic lane show the boundaries of a crosswalk. As a driver, you should know that A. Motor vehicles have the right of way over pedestrians in crosswalks. B. When pedestrians are in crosswalks, they should be given the right of way. C. No one has the right of way in a crosswalk. D. Pedestrians are responsible to stay out of the way of all traffic. B. When pedestrians are in crosswalks, they should be given the right of way. Crosswalk lines show pedestrians where to safely cross a road or street. Crosswalks may be marked by horizontal lines, vertical lines, or a combination of the two. You must always stop for pedestrians who are in a crosswalk. This sign means A. No U-turn. B. No left turn. C. No right turn. D. No turning. C. No right turn. This sign indicates that right turns are prohibited. Do not make a right turn at an intersection where this sign is posted. This sign means A. Railroad crossing. B. One-way traffic. C. Limited parking. D. Playground ahead. A. Railroad crossing. Circular traffic signs indicate upcoming railroad crossings. This sign tells drivers that they are approaching a railroad crossing and should be looking for signs of an oncoming train. The best way to avoid hydroplaning is to A. Keep your tires properly maintained. B. Slow down when roads are wet or slushy. C. Watch out for standing water or puddles. D. All of the above. D. All of the above. When roads are wet, cars take a longer distance to stop and may skid on quick turns. Do not use cruise control when driving under wet or icy conditions. Reduce your speed and drive with caution. When you hear a fire engine siren behind you, you must A. Slow down until it passes you. B. Drive with your flashers on. C. Pull over to the side of the road and stop. D. Speed up and take the nearest exit. C. Pull over to the side of the road and stop. When you hear the siren of an emergency vehicle, you must pull over to the curb or side of the road and stop. You notice that the driver in the vehicle ahead of you is driving with one hand and talking to a passenger. You should A. Give the vehicle extra space. B. Know that the driver in the vehicle ahead is reducing their safety margin by being an inattentive driver. C. Avoid following the driver's example. D. All of the above. D. All of the above. Do not become distracted by looking at passengers, attempting to find something in your vehicle, looking at reading material, sightseeing, or daydreaming while driving. If a driver near you seems distracted, allow them extra space because the risk of an accident is increased by their inattentiveness. Which of the following influences the effects of alcohol? A. The amount of food in the stomach. B. The body weight of an individual. C. How much time passes between drinks. D. All three choices. D. All three choices. Your blood alcohol content (BAC) depends on how much alcohol you drink, how much time passes between drinks, and your weight. Eating before or while you drink helps slow the absorption of alcohol somewhat, but it cannot prevent intoxication or impairment if you have too much to drink. When may you text while driving? A. If you can text without looking at your phone. B. Under no circumstances. C. If you are using voice to text. D. If you only look away from the road for a moment. B. Under no circumstances. Texting while driving in North Carolina is prohibited. Using a cellular telephone while driving is a major distraction to the operator of a motor vehicle. Drivers should use headlights when A. Visibility is 400 feet or less. B. Driving between sunset and sunrise. C. It is raining. D. All of the above. D. All of the above. The law requires use of headlights from sunset to sunrise and when visibility is 400 feet or less. When it is raining, drivers should use their low-beam headlights and windshield wipers. If someone has consumed alcoholic drinks, what will help the person overcome the influence of those drinks? A. Tomato juice and lime. B. Hot coffee. C. Fresh air. D. Only time. D. Only time. Only the passage of time will allow a person to overcome the influence of alcohol. A person's ability to drive can be impaired by A. Alcohol. B. Any medication. C. A. Lack of sleep. D. All of the above. D. All of the above. The ability to drive safely is dependent on the driver being in good physical condition. Driving can be impaired by alcohol, legal and illegal drugs, and being drowsy. When may a driver stop on railroad tracks? A. If they are crossing and their car is not yet able to entirely clear the tracks. B. If it doesn't sound like there are any trains nearby. C. Never. D. If the gate is not lowered. C. Never. Never stop on the tracks. If your car stalls on the tracks and you cannot restart it, get out and try to push the car off the tracks. If you cannot push the car off the tracks, get help. Do not begin to cross railroad tracks unless your car can entirely clear the tracks. This sign is used to warn drivers: A. That the right lane ends and traffic should merge left. B. That the road curves ahead. C. About upcoming intersections. D. About road construction. A. That the right lane ends and traffic should merge left. This sign indicates that the right lane on a multi-lane roadway ends ahead. Traffic in the right lane must merge left. A driver approaching a flashing red traffic signal must: A. Slow down at the light. B. Drive carefully without stopping. C. Merge to the right. D. Stop before entering the intersection. D. Stop before entering the intersection. A flashing red light means that you must stop, yield to traffic and pedestrians, and go only when it is safe. At a railroad crossing, a flashing red light indicates that a train is approaching. Yield to the train, and go only when the lights have stopped flashing and all other active warning devices deactivate. This sign means: A. Pedestrians ahead. B. End of construction zone. C. School crossing ahead. D. Flagger ahead. D. Flagger ahead. This sign indicates that there is a flagger ahead controlling traffic in a construction area. This sign means: A. School ahead. B. School crossing. C. Pedestrian crossing. D. Construction workers on or near the roadway. C. Pedestrian crossing. Warning signs are usually diamond-shaped with black markings on a yellow background. They alert drivers to upcoming hazards. This sign indicates that there may be pedestrians crossing the road ahead.